Inside this abandoned warehouse in a location that must remain secret, we're going to do something that we probably shouldn't be doing. But we're going to go for it anyway. Good evening. I'm Mitch Pileggi. You're about to see one of the world's top magicians break his code of silence and reveal some of magic's most closely guarded secrets. This is not a gimmick. You are actually going to find out how these amazing illusions are pulled off. A warning, if you don't want to know how these tricks are done, better switch to another channel right now. We're really not sure why a well-known magician would go on television and expose these deep, dark secrets. After all, he's risking his entire career to do so. That's why, in order to protect his identity, you will not hear him speak or even see his face. He will be known only as the Masked Magician. Tonight, for the first time on television, he will reveal the incredible secret of sawing a woman in half, the secret trick to levitating 8 feet off the ground, and the astonishing secret of making a 7,000-pound elephant disappear right before your very eyes. Don't blink. You might miss one of these amazing secrets.
You've now entered the warehouse. For his first trick, the masked magician will turn one of his assistants into a tiger. He'll begin by showing you what the illusion is supposed to look like. Then you'll see how it's actually done. It doesn't matter where you see these illusions performed, in a glitzy Vegas show, a big-budget television special, or a show like this where we've stripped away the fancy lasers and pyrotechnics. The tricks are all basically the same. The masked magician makes his entrance. It's important to remember that none of the illusions you will see have been achieved through camera tricks. The magician selects an assistant and puts her into the cage. The cage is then covered by a yellow curtain. There's a reason for this. You'll notice that in many of tonight's tricks, curtains or other obstructions are used to hide what's going on behind the scenes. This is when most illusions are actually pulled off. The cage is lifted into the air, making it impossible for anything or anyone to get in or out. All attention is now focused on the cage. Our magician strikes a dramatic pose. And when the curtains are removed, our assistant has been turned into a 500-pound tiger. It seems pretty magical, but obviously there has to be a logical explanation. Okay, let's let the cat out of the bag and show you how the trick is done. Believe it or not, the tiger is actually inside the cage during the entire illusion. To keep him hidden from view, the tiger must be positioned behind a fake wall. Before that can happen, the trainer must first make him as comfortable as possible in his cage. And that means feeding him plenty of raw meat. While one of the trainers distracts the tiger with the meat, another trainer slides the tiger's hind legs against the rear of the cage. Nice kitty. Then the fake wall is gently put into place. The tiger is trained to stand in a confined space, but only for a short period of time, so everything must happen fast. When the actual performance begins, the tiger is already positioned behind the fake wall as the assistant enters the cage. The drapes are drawn. And with our mini lipstick camera, we can see the assistant drop into a secret compartment at the base of the cage. While inside, she pulls on a cord that releases the tiger into the cage. This must be done with perfect timing or the girl and the tiger will end up in the cage at the same time. From this angle, you can see that the cage is round at the bottom. This is where our assistant is hiding. Take another look. The compartment is extremely shallow. That's why you don't see too many overweight assistants. Our slender assistant must remain perfectly still, or the tiger will know that lunch is just inches away. It may seem simple, but that's how you turn a lady into a tiger, no matter who's performing the trick. Now the Chinese lantern trick. In case you're wondering, these are not the masked magician's regular assistants, so that won't help you identify them. First, notice the assistant with the ribbons. She has absolutely nothing to do with the trick. Her rhythmic gymnastics are merely a diversion, but a nice one. Now our magician brings out a light. This is an important part of the trick because the illusion is all about light and shadows. If something were concealed within a secret compartment of the lantern, you'd be able to see its shadow. The idea is to prove to the audience that the lantern is empty. It certainly looks empty. When a magician goes to these lengths to prove his point, you know he's up to something. The light is put in place, and the lantern is closed. He takes us around one more time to show there's nothing hidden behind the lantern. Now it's time for the illusion to begin. Amazingly, a shadow appears from inside the lantern. I told you he was up to something. For effect, our magician puts himself into a deep trance as the shadow magically takes on the form of a woman. Now for the big finish. With a little more showmanship, he transforms the shadow into a real human being. But despite all the artistry, we all know that it was just one big trick. Now we'll show you how it was done. As the lantern is brought out, one of the assistants is already hidden inside. Once the lantern is put into position, the assistant slips out a back panel and hides from view. Our magician uses the light to demonstrate that the lantern is empty, which of course it is because our assistant is still hiding outside. He passes the light between the lantern and the assistant in order to avoid casting a visible shadow. The light is put into place and the front of the lantern is closed. The assistant slips back inside the lantern and waits for her cue. Since she can't see the magician's hands, these choreographed movements are triggered by musical cues. What teamwork. Now let's see what it looks like from inside the lantern. Watch as the assistant gets closer to the front screen, making it seem as if a woman is magically materializing. But we know there's nothing really magical about it. Finally, the assistant pops through the front of the lantern. And our magician has done it again.
Coming up, the secret of pulling off a death-defying escape, how to make a woman levitate 8 feet off the ground, and the secret behind making an elephant vanish into thin air.
Now one of magic's bread and butter tricks, levitating a woman. The illusion begins with our assistant taking a few moments to set up the trick. She's trying to prove that the ring is solid. I can tell you right now that it is. More girls, more rings, more dancing. It's all part of the performance to make the trick seem even bigger than it really is. The magician looks for just the right assistant to levitate. Sometimes a magician will select someone from the audience. That person is known as a shill and is always in on the trick. What a shock. He chooses the assistant that just happens to be wearing the long flowing gown. Her dress is an important part of the illusion. The magician gazes into her eyes, as if to put her into a deep trance. This is to convince you he's a master hypnotist. The assistant acts as if she's under our magician's hypnotic powers. He puts her on the table and her body appears to go limp. Now the levitation begins. It appears as if she's floating in midair. Obviously, this is impossible. He moves his hand underneath her body to show that nothing is supporting her. Now he moves the ring completely around her, proving she isn't being suspended by wires or cables. Remember, as we told you before, the ring is solid. The magician makes it appear as if he's using his hands to guide her down. Slowly, she floats back to her original position and is brought out of her hypnotic trance. Now, for all of you playing at home, here's how it's done. First, in order to levitate, you don't need to be put into a trance. All you need is some heavy machinery and the right evening gown. Look closely. When our assistant's dress is not draped properly, you can see that she's actually lying on top of a 3-foot wide platform. The platform is black, so you won't be able to see it against our curtain. It's attached to a hydraulic forklift positioned behind the curtain. When the magician gives the cue, the magical forklift operator raises and lowers the platform. It's not very magical when you see how it's done. Now, what about the solid metal ring? It looks like it passes completely around the assistant. But this is merely an example of sleight of hand. He's only making it appear as if the ring is going all the way around her. From the back, we can see that the bar attached to the forklift prevents the ring from going all the way around the assistant's body. It's the magician's sleight of hand that makes it look as if it really did. And that's the secret behind this classic illusion. Sorry to bring you back down to earth, but this is the only way to levitate. Without a doubt, Houdini was the greatest escape artist who ever lived. Since then, thousands of magicians have repeated his death-defying escapes. You're about to find out how they're done. The magician is put into a straitjacket. This is a real straitjacket, the kind you'd find at any good asylum. It would be virtually impossible for anyone to get out of it. The straps are securely fastened.